The impudence, the audacity, the unmitigated gall of those Knuckleheads of Liberty podcasters, daring to voice opinions outside the mainstream of accepted thought. Listen if you dare. It's angry, it's funny, it's even sometimes sad, but it's always based on freedom and justice, as you will see. Here's our host, Jason McPhee.
Welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty. We're coming at you on April 6th, 2022. All kinds of crazy things as usual to talk about. But before we get into that, let me introduce you to our panel. In our upper left-hand corner, we have Leon, the word Brathwaite, last word in Liberty. He is a retired engineer in the state of California. In our upper right-hand corner, we have our screaming eagle of freedom, Tim Everett. He is a pilot in the state of California. My name is Jason McPhee, and I'll be your host today. So this show is going to be mostly focused on identity-type politics issues. We already covered the whole Chris Rock, Will Smith thing on the show, but it turned out there was sort of a secondary scandal that happened that night, and it was all related to identity politics. And I don't know, to be fair to Chris Rock, whether he was just so jittered after the whole Will Smith thing that's what caused it. But apparently, when he went to announce the award for Best Documentary, the guy who won, or at least the leader of the pack, I guess, of the guys who won, was this guy named Questlove, and he was a black guy. And so he announced his name for winning, and then he said, and Questlove and 4 other white guys, and the number wasn't even right. So it was actually 3 other guys, but also 2 of them were white and 1 of them was Indian, and apparently he was like one of the first people from his country ever to win that award too, and of that ethnicity. So he was very upset, this guy. Let me see, maybe we can get the image for this up there. Yeah, so here are the guys right there, and this guy right here is the guy that was very upset. His name is Joseph Patel, I think. That he was mislabeled as a white guy. So he was essentially tweeting that I believe that Chris Rock was an effing dick. So for doing that, but this is a crazy thing, is that aside from the fact that he mislabeled this guy, there was no concern at all in any of the press for the fact that all 3 of these guys were just marginalized completely as 3 white guys. So they're all up there to collect an Oscar. And, can you imagine if, Chris Rock, especially Will Smith, won an award just after this? And what if they just said, some black guy won the award? And Will Smith comes up to get the award, right? I mean, this is just insane. This is a huge night for all 3 of these guys, and regardless of where they're from, the idea that they're just completely marginalized by their skin color is absolutely appalling. But then the fact that this one guy is super upset about being labeled white. Anyway, well, what do you guys think of it? I just think this story gets crazier and crazier.
Well, the guy should just take the mislabeling and claim his white privilege, okay? Chris Rock called him white. He could claim his white privilege. I don't see what the big deal is. Quite frankly, on a serious note, I don't even know why we're calling this a scandal, okay? Okay, Chris Rock is a comedian. Sometimes he says some very asinine things, okay? But, okay, so he did say an asinine thing by calling the guy, or the Asian guy, calling him white. But the fact of the matter is, these people were not on the stage because of their skin color. They were there supposedly because of their talent. That is what it's all about, their talent. And that is what we should be emphasizing, and that is what was emphasized in the presentation of the award for their documentary. But what is the big deal that somebody call you white and you're not white, somebody call you something else? People just call me Jamaican all the time. I'm not Jamaican. And as a matter of fact, I'm an American. People just call me Jamaican all the time. All right, well, if you want to go back to my origins, I'm from Trinidad. Am I going to spend my time getting upset over that kind of crap? Oh, come on. This is nonsense, I mean, you mean the guy in that article you posted he was talking about how both Chris and Will did something wrong that night. Here we get again of comparing words and violence. Okay, Chris was just talking some stupid words. Okay, fine. But he now putting those words and those violence at the same level that, Will Smith committed violence upon Chris. Chris supposedly committed some sort of violence against this guy by calling him white when he was really Asian. This is the identity politics of our times that is nothing but woke garbage.
Hey, Jamaica man, let's say we go talk some ganga after the show. I don't know, that's probably horrible, but oh well, best I could do in a pinch. That's I don't know, what can I say? I guess if you're just going to make race the number one priority and continually pound it into people's heads time after time after time, eventually, it's just going to be, messed up by comedians and other people. They're just going to screw it all up. But you live by the sword, you die by the sword, and if you live by racism, which the left does, there's a racist under every rock, and
yes.
Everybody's a racist.
Yes.
So if they're going to live by the sword of racism, they're going to die by it, and this kind of thing is going to happen again and again and again. And so I'm, you reap what you sow. That's my
Indeed.
Final say.
Indeed.
It's a final say from two white guys and a black guy. That's what we'll call our show from now on. Two white guys and a black guy.
Two white guys and a black guy. Maybe we should no longer be the Knuckleheads of Liberty. We should now be two white guys and a black guy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Shit.
Well, that's it.
I said it.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Yeah, the reverse Oreo cookie. There we go. that's what we are now.
Maybe there's our name, the reverse Oreo cookie of Liberty. There we go.
There we go.
I think that's a good name. I like that as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I do too. How did we think of that one? Oh,
yeah. Hey, we should change our name. The reverse Oreo cookie of Liberty. Here we go.
Just remember, if you're watching or listening to us, look for that name as well next week, just in case you can't find us in our regular. There we go. Well, it's funny. As far as these issues go, though, I mean, of identity politics, they don't have a whole heck of a lot to do with liberty. But the problem is, these people, they just keep bringing it up with respect to government. Because a lot of times the left is the one who's making a big deal about this stuff all the time, and of course they're always trying to get into government. And here's sort of another story that I wanted to bring up, and maybe we could get the image up for that. So we had two issues of I guess a race hoax happening at a school where essentially kids were writing stuff on the wall that sort of hate speech, or in this particular case, McClatchy High School here in Sacramento, a girl a black girl wound up putting a label next to some water fountains that said colored and white only, and which was kind of funny. But it's funny, if you look in the actual title here, this is another point I wanted to make. You don't see anything about the race. You have to really dig through the story to find out. And not too long before that, there was a similar story at another local high school. And this one was for the, Rosemont High School. And apparently some kids were writing the N-words must die, or something like that. Turned out both of them were black. But of course, you can't tell that from the story. And it's funny then, Fox covers the story as well, but in Fox, it's actually in the title, which is weird. And maybe that's another issue of the whole, culture war that we have, right? Where some news, they sort of bury the idea that these are hoaxes, and others, they sort of trumpet the idea that these are hoaxes. So it's almost like, depending upon where you're getting your information, you have two different views on this. And so anyways, I just curious of what your guys' thoughts were on this. I mean, yet more sort of hoax hate crimes, but only, it depends upon where you're getting your media, whether or not it's even called a hoax.
Well, my biggest issue is with the misspelling of the word should. on the thing there. SHOUD.
That's our public schools for you.
That's our public school system. And so can we talk again about how pitiful the public school system is in America, or do we have to go into if you don't have enough racism around, let's manufacture your own, right?
Yes.
That's manufacture racism. That's what this is here. So what do you think, Leon?
Well, two things. Well, first thing, Jason, you said that these things don't have a whole hell of a lot to do with liberty. I will beg to differ on that point, and let me tell you why. If you look at the N-word, you travel on any public train in America, okay? I used to travel on a public train to go to work. I've said this before on the show. And almost every day on that train, I hear the N-word being used by young black men, sometimes women. And nobody ever objects to it. But if a white person did that, we'll be hearing it will make the local news and sometimes the national news, depending on the context. So there's a free speech issue here involved in certain words in America today. So I beg to differ a little bit about whether this interferes with liberty or not. It does. It really does.
Fair enough.
Okay. All right. But back to the story here. You know, these stories to me tell me about the progress we are seeing in America, how the lives of blacks are being changed for the better. But it's happening in a sort of strange way. They are teaching all this woke garbage in our schools. All of it. A bunch of it. They're teaching all this woke garbage. But the kids go into the real world and they don't see enough racist incidents to justify the nonsense that they learn in the schools. So what do? They're feeling victimized. So, we have to create fake incidents just to justify the garbage you're learning in the schools. Now, I hope these people are prosecuted, whatever laws they broke or whatever, whether it's a suspension or whatever, they should be prosecuted for it because they shouldn't be doing this crap. But the people who really should be prosecuted and probably who should be fired are all these equity counselors we have in the school, all these teachers who teach in this woke garbage, who wouldn't teach our children reading, writing, and arithmetic. These are the people who should be prosecuted and fired. Oh boy, I wish you could find some way to do that. Because they are the ones who are manufacturing these feelings of victimhood in the schools for black and brown children. And then we have them creating these fake incidents to justify those fake feelings they have inside of them. I want them to fire all of these damn people. I really do.
Wow. Going to the cause instead of just looking at the effect.
Exactly.
Well, this does bring up the point I guess I was trying to make before, but and that's that where this really makes a difference, all of this crazy racial equity stuff, is when it really starts to get into the laws. And Leon makes a good point that they're kind of silencing one group of people with this language and such, this crazy identity politics. It does happen outside of government too. That's the problem. But within government, it's just crazy. And maybe we could bring up this next item here. And in Seattle, so they literally have a bicycle helmet law that they had. And now I don't, as a libertarian, I prefer not to have these helmet laws. But that's aside from the point of the story. Point of the story is that their government thinks they do need a bicycle helmet law, but because they found that more black people were being cited for not wearing helmets than white people, they did away with the law. And I mean, this is kind of like what we're seeing in San Francisco and other places where, we're seeing a lot of shoplifting and, let's just not make that a crime anymore. Because we don't like the way this is impacting who's being arrested. We're not too comfortable with that. So let's just not have that law anymore. And I just can't even imagine. And they sit here and they say, hey, we're going to provide free bicycle helmets. And we think this is an important law and it's important that people wear helmets. But we're not going to do it anymore because of equity, because we just don't think that the numbers aren't coming out the way we want them to. What do you guys think about that?
Well,
I,
go ahead, Tim. Tim, go ahead. Tim, go ahead.
no, go ahead, Leon. I started first last time.
Well, wherever we see the Democrats in charge, and in Seattle, I guess in this case is these Democrats are more socialists. Wherever you see them in charge, you always see this garbage, this equity nonsense, where we have to have these quote unquote equitable outcomes before we could be comfortable and before we could be right. That if we just change these laws, if we make, well, in this case, the helmet law, and you're right, I don't know why we have helmet laws, but we do have them. But if you're going to remove them, you don't remove them because of this so-called equity. If you want the helmet laws, maybe you should be educating people about the use of the helmet, because nobody is claiming that people are being unjustly fined for not wearing the helmet. They're not claiming that. You're just claiming that the outcomes are turning out that way. So if we find one group of people, I guess in their logic and their world, in this utopia that they want to create, if we find that one group of people committing more murders per capita than another group of people, I guess then in that case we'll have to stop. We'll have to remove the laws about murder being a crime. But this is the idiocy of the law. Of the thinking of these people. This is the idiocy of their thinking. That they think the way for us to get to utopia is by making everything equitable, and the equitable definitions are their definitions, not ours. Okay? So if the helmet law is unjust because of the outcomes of who's been fined, well, okay, we should remove the law. I guess when the outcomes of murder in terms of who's committing those crimes turn out to be unjust, inequitable, I guess we'll have to make murder legal then, and then everything will be fine, and we'll get to that utopia that they're wishing for. God help us with these people.
Well, I guess if they remove the law for everybody, that means white people will be equally able to give themselves concussions as black, correct? Is that the deal?
Equity and injury.
Yeah, equity and injury, right. We're all equally prone to killing ourselves with a head injury on a bicycle as opposed to before. Of course, as a libertarian, I agree with the two of you that these kinds of laws should not even exist in the first place. And what a world would be for our taking if we had a more libertarian view, and instead of a top-down centrally planned view, where the central planners plan, okay, we're going to make this law, this helmet law, because we know helmets save lives. They do. Okay, bicycle helmets included. And no argument there. However, we're going to mandate that everybody wears a helmet at maybe a certain age or whatever when riding a bicycle. And so, oh my gosh, black kids can't afford bicycle helmets, or for whatever reason, or maybe they don't like them, or for whatever cultural reason you want to think of. I don't know, but the top-down central planners didn't think of all that stuff. They just thought their world was just going to change for the better, just like seatbelt laws, the same exact thing. You know, yeah, seatbelts are great. I've always worn them, even before they were mandatory to be worn. I would always wear them simply because they save lives. It's just, you know, research is there. is pretty cut and dry. I don't have to, but I do. I guess that, you know, if they saw me without one. How about in my airplane? Do I have to wear the whole shoulder harness thing with the strap that goes under you've got a crotch strap, a lap belt, and 2 shoulder harnesses? I don't have to wear those. I mean, there's a mandate that I do according to the FAA. The FARs cover that. But who's going to see if I'm up in the plane by myself? Nobody. So, you know, it's on my own recognizance, which is the way humans ought to be able to respond to the decisions that they make daily about their safety. They should do it based on their own safety. not based on, oh my gosh, am I going to get a $200 fine for not doing this thing that my higher up elites, my mom and dad demand of me. Gee whiz, I sure wish. I'm sure glad I wore my bicycle helmet and avoided that, because I went right by that cop. He would have given me $100 ticket or whatever. But, and then I get in an accident, fall, hit the pavement on my helmet instead of my head, and I survive without any issues. Oh, that's not as important as avoiding that $100 fine. So this kind of thinking, I don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg. Did people start thinking this stupidly? And then the government came along and made a law? Or did the government come along and make a law and then people started thinking stupid again? I don't know which one was first.
One thing I think is kind of would be kind of funny about all this is if they take away the law and then they find out more black people are getting disproportionately hurt on bicycles, exactly. And then they turn around and they say, well, it's racist that we didn't have a law. And
you know what? Honestly, if that came about, I'm sorry. Therein is the punishment. That it's not the fine, it's the getting hurt. And so if that's not enough motivation for the black community to go and invest in bicycle helmets, then I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I wish it were more of a motivation. It motivates me. I'm an adult. I don't have to wear a bicycle helmet. When I ride my bike, guess what? I wear a bicycle helmet. So, and I don't have to, but I do because I don't want to get hurt. And things are cheap. It's so cheap nowadays. You can get them on Amazon for I don't know what. So there's no excuse. Okay, other than the motivation, and if that's the case, if more black kids start dying because they're not wearing their bicycle helmets, but the white kids, in spite of lack of a law compelling them to, they stop wearing bicycle helmets, or they do, or they don't stop because they're, I don't know. What's the reason? I don't know what the reason is. And honestly, it doesn't matter. I don't care if it's a racial thing or a cultural thing or a economic thing or whatever thing. We are individuals that are responsible to ourselves, people, not to the government, not to, I'm going to genuflect on the ground and worship the almighty great God government because they mandate that I wear a bicycle helmet. So I'm going to wear one. But if it's just for me.
You see, but Jason raised an important point there, because so what will be the utopian solution? These socialist idiots, what will be the utopian solution if they found out that, well, they removed the law and now we have more black and maybe brown kids having more injuries than, say, white kids? What then? Are we going to say the removal of the law now is racist now?
Yeah.
What would be the equitable?
No-win situation.
No-win situation. No-win situation. Exactly. But the whole point about it, I think Tim touched on it. We have to stop looking at skin color as some important characteristic in our human existence. Okay? Skin color should tell you nothing. My blackness should tell you nothing about me. Okay? It should tell you absolutely nothing about me. You know nothing about me until I open my mouth or until I behave in some manner. And so that is what it should be. And I should know nothing about you guys until I talk to you guys, until I interact with you guys, until we get to that place. Until we get to that place, we'll always have these idiocies coming from the government and from the people that we have to interact with in society, where race has become so important, we can't think about nothing else. Wow. We have to get to Martin Luther King's words. We must judge by the content of our character, not the color of our skin. We have to get there. If we don't get there, we'll always be in trouble.
Well,
so
Leon,
so if Leon and I are going to go ride bikes together and we're going to meet somewhere and he shows up, I'm not going to expect one way or another for him to have or have not a helmet based on his skin color. I'm going to assume if he shows up with one, then he, is taking care of himself, and he shows up without one, then he's made a calculated risk that it's okay for him not to wear one.
Exactly.
Well, either way, it's okay.
Exactly.
You could just be a racist lefty and show up with a helmet for him. Just
yeah. Actually, Hi, Leon. I figured because you're black, you couldn't afford a helmet. Guess what? I brought my helmet and one for you. What a good boy am I?
Boy, wow! Your white privilege is gonna save me, Tim. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. And it's adjustable in case your head is bigger than my white head.
Okay.
Well, let's jump into racist identity politics of another shade. And for our Knucklehead Noise Patrol here, maybe we can get the image up. So apparently, they can't seem to get away from this. They passed this bill called the Parental Rights Bill in Florida. And everybody in the left just keeps calling it the Don't Say Gay Bill, which it doesn't actually say that. It really just regulates what teachers can talk to very small children about. We're talking like kids 3rd grade and under, right? So essentially it's not a whole lot of reason for teachers to be talking about sex with those kids. But anyways, so yet one more person from the left, an actor, Ron Perlman, came out and he tweeted, and it's funny, I kind of like this guy in a few movies, but boy, does he make an arse out of himself. He says, don't say gay, don't say as the first 2 words in a sentence spoken by a political leader of a state in the United States of America. Don't say, he continued, don't effing say you effing Nazi pig. Say First Amendment, read about it, then for office, you piece of S. Okay, wow. I mean, we didn't have to judge him by his race. He just told us what he's all about. But yeah, anyway, do you guys have anything to say about this?
Go for it, Leon.
These idiots, they always, the first thing they do is they misrepresent whatever it is we're talking about. And then they get on this moral high ground that they're going to save us from whichever evil they've identified. It is the same thing with the voter law in Georgia. Oh, they tell us it's so horrible for black people. Oh my God, black people don't have voter ID. Oh my God, it's going to be so horrible. Where's all the outrage now? It's all gone because it was all a lie. It's the same thing happening with this bill in Florida. The bill says nothing about gay or anything like that. It just says that parents between kindergarten and 3rd grade, parents should be teaching their kids about sexual identity and all these other things. And what the hell is wrong with that? Why do we want these woke people teaching our children all this nonsense anyway? When they're going to be doing nothing but propaganda, throwing propaganda in their head, in their young heads.
Yeah. Well, Leon, the left tells me I'm white, and so I got to be concerned about being on time, and we're about out of time. So thanks so much for joining us, and we will see you at the next one. Until then,
that was Jason using his white privilege.